Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 120 of Paul Heyman's TNA. Tonight's show is TNA Final Resolution 2011 with the tagline, The Final Battle. This because we are booking, if not the biggest show we've booked, certainly the biggest match that we've ever put on during the course of this save, as AJ Styles will defend the TNA World Heavyweight Championship against the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk, his title also on the line. In tonight's main event, the two figureheads of these warring promotions will go head to head, the winner becoming the first ever Impact World Champion. That is what the opening video package looks to get across. The last ever pay-per-view in TNA Wrestling history, so we look back on some of the history of the company as well. From 2012, will become Impact Wrestling. The war comes to an end tonight, hence the Final Battle tagline. Following the package, Maranello, Mike Tenay and Taz welcome viewers to the show. We had to have the voice of TNA, Mike Tenay, back for this. A historic night for TNA Wrestling and perhaps the biggest match in the company's existence. They cannot wait for that huge main event. But we begin with a match that will see the first ever #1 contenders to the Impact World Championship crowned as Austin Aries and Tyler Black team to face Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe in a really good opener. I think that's a really good way to open this show. Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe picking up the victory over Austin Aries and Tyler Black in 15 minutes and 52. When Desmond Wolfe pins Austin Aries, it says a jawbreaker lariat. I was thinking a finish of Austin Aries going for the brainbuster from the second rope, Desmond Wolfe slipping out of it and hitting a Tower of London. Earlier in the match, a dive to the outside from Bryan Danielson to Tyler Black, taking both of them out of the way, and it's a bit of redemption for Desmond Wolfe. He was defeated by Austin Aries on Thursday. He's been a target of Aries since Bound for Glory, so a good moment for him with a decent performance as well, 79. Bryan Danielson with an 89. Decent performances as well from the other two. But it is Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe, two former rivals. In fact, they wrestled at last year's Final Resolution, and Bryan joins Desmond Wolfe in the ring, the two men having their arms raised, confirmed as the #1 contenders to the Impact World Championship, a title match that will take place on the very first episode of Impact Wrestling a week from Thursday. Whether it is AJ Styles or CM Punk, this victory presents an incredible turnaround for the two former rivals. Like I said, they were fighting, they were bitter enemies this time last year. Bryan Danielson offers his hand to Desmond Wolfe after the match. Wolfe has tried a few times, including last year at Final Resolution, to get that handshake from Bryan Danielson. This time, it's not a rejection. Desmond Wolfe accepts the gesture, and it's kind of just putting over that unthinkable thing. This sign of respect and perhaps even friendship was once thought impossible. They've been brought together by their success, and the commentators reiterate, however, that will count for nothing in the main event of Impact Wrestling, the first ever episode. It'll be AJ Styles or CM Punk defending against Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe, and that is quite the main event for the first show, I'm sure you'll agree. We then go into a video package that looks at the first men who ever held the World Heavyweight Championships that are being defended tonight. Back in 2002, Low-Ki became the first ever Ring of Honor champion, a man who became very, very familiar with success to both fans of TNA and Ring of Honor. While it was the NWA World Heavyweight Championship that was considered the top prize in TNA all those years ago, in 2007, Kurt Angle became the first TNA World Heavyweight Champion, a title that remains synonymous with his name really. When you look back at the history, the lineage, Kurt Angle's name is throughout that history, and of course he's held it for such a long time. Tonight, two of the most prestigious championships in pro wrestling will be unified, the winner becoming the first Impact World Champion. That's one of a couple of video packages that we've got, just looking to promote and further add importance to this main event. We go then into the second match of the night, the only other non-title match on the card, as Gail Kim faces Madison Rayne, and despite the threats of involvement from Mischief and Daisy Hayes, and of course the potential for Sarah Del Rey then to come out, none of that happens. Gail Kim with a clean win in 10 minutes and 9 seconds with the Eat defeat. It's a good performance from Gail Kim. We can see there that we are certainly making progress with her. Madison Rayne is always pretty decent too, and these two having great chemistry means that it's a 65 rating, gaining heat to the storyline. Just very, very happy with that, to be fair. Gail getting better at her gimmick is something we also wanted to see, so positives all round, and despite the expectations of outside involvement, it's a clean and decisive victory. Continuing on her role since arriving back in TNA, Kim has her arm raised in the ring following a third successive pay-per-view victory. Mauro, Mike and Taz all in agreement. It is only a matter of time before Gail sets her sights on the Knockouts Championship, and with the record she's had since coming back, it'd be pretty difficult to disagree with her deserving that opportunity. We then get a video package for the third match of the night, and it features footage from both Ring of Honor and TNA as it chronicles the deep personal rivalry between Kevin Steen and El Generico. I try to avoid too many video packages on pay-per-views, but this is a match that, to try and get it over as much as we can, it needs that. They've got a Full Metal Mayhem match up next. Former best friends and tag team partners, Kevin Steen's betrayal of his partner set in motion one of the most brutal and storied rivalries in the history of Ring of Honor. Everybody knows all about these two. When they arrived in TNA, it wasn't long before they clashed once more. Well, they have proved that they can coexist to an extent within the same company. The events of Bound for Glory is what sparked this rivalry back into life. 24 hours after winning the X Division Championship from Tyler Black at Glory by Honor, the X Division champion El Generico issued an open challenge at the beginning of the biggest show in the TNA calendar. When Kevin Steen came out and accepted that challenge, Kevin Steen became the champion, retained it at Turning Point, albeit cheating to win both matches, and he vowed after this that El Generico would never receive another title shot. Desperate and determined to get his title back, Generico offered to put his mask on the line, his entire identity at risk, for one more shot at the title. This is the last match between the two men. Kevin Steen accepted, of course, the possibility to humiliate El Generico, just too tempting for him, and we go into this match, maybe the last match we'll ever see of El Generico. Of course, he went to WWE unmasked and unlocked a lot of potential when El Generico was signed by WWE. I do remember having some questions about how it was going to work. Of course, Sami Zayn, a fantastic character in WWE. Are we going to see an unmasked El Generico going forward in the X Division Championship match that gets a good rating, better than the previous matches certainly? A lack of psychology on display does probably mean that it's not as good as we might have hoped. I don't know if scripting that would have made a difference or whether it is just a case of the two wrestlers involved not quite having that skill. Both men taking a stump bump during the match, and that's just because the insane nature of the match in general. I actually went a bit back and forth between how to book this mayhem car crash. I eventually went with Steal the Show, mainly because there was no other candidate for a match that I would put that note on, but also because I just think that's what these two guys can do. It's a really good match, and if you've seen their ladder war in Ring of Honor at Final Battle, I think 2012 it was, an incredible match, and that's basically what we want from them here. Instead of Kevin Steen hitting the package pile driver onto a ladder to El Generico, we get the same setup but the other way round, so it's two ladders set up in the ring and then one as a bridge between them. The two men fight while stood on that bridge, but El Generico taking a leaf from Kevin Steen's book, something he has used time and time again in his TNA career, with a kick between the legs followed by a package pile driver. El Generico using the finisher of his greatest rival to put him down before being able to climb back up the ladder, unhook the championship, and El Generico keeps his mask and becomes the new X Division champion. Exhausted, of course, and in severe pain. 20 minutes of just balls to the wall action. All the spots you'd expect with the tables, the chairs, and the ladders. El Generico hugs the X Division Championship close to his chest, having, like I said, not only won the title, but ensured that he will keep that mask that is his identity. Kevin Steen lays out across the ladder that had been bridged between the two, and it's a testament to how much they'd put each other through. We get shots of ringside, all the chaos, all the rubble, everything that's gone down in the final battle of what has been an incredibly brutal rivalry, a legendary story that we all know between these two. El Generico has shown his toughness and resolve to become a two-time X Division champion. A great moment for him. It's only a short arc, I suppose, but from El Generico failing to win the X Division championship Championship to fighting back, winning the title at the Ring of Honor show, only to have it snatched away from him 24 hours later. We've then used these 2 months to just put across Kevin Steen as the biggest dick imaginable, which is something that he excels at. El Generico's legitimised himself, so I think we've elevated these two really, really well during the course of this storyline. And a Full Metal Mayhem match, knowing how good these two are, to me, this has just set them on a new level, and going into this era with Impact Wrestling in 2012, there is a lot to come from these two, I promise that. After we settle down from the match, everything cleared up, we go into the Knockouts Tag Team Championships match, and it's a decent match. Of 57's okay. Of course, we're still dealing with the fact that Aja Kong is really not over, but again, big improvements from her already, and it is a victory for Double Kong when during the match Hamada suffers a kayfabe injury. She's unable to compete. Taylor Wilde checks on her on the outside. The referee's asking her, do they want to call this match off given that Hamada cannot continue to compete? Wilde agrees to carry on, but you can see it's only an 8-minute match because it essentially becomes a handicap match. A Kong bomb from Aja Kong is enough to get the 1-2-3, but we're kind of putting across that in defense number 2 of Double Kong's tag team title reign, it's a little bit disappointing that we didn't get the match that we expected. Hamada and Taylor Wilde have been a really good tag team. Commentators putting across what could have been if we'd have got a proper competitive match, and it's just the unfortunate nature of Hamada's injury that has stopped us getting that, and that continues after the match. Aja Kong and Awesome Kong stood tall. Of course, it's a celebration for them, but the commentators are concerned about Hamada. She's getting checked on by medics at ringside and it's not looking good. Taylor Wilde, when she comes round, checks on her partner, and it's clear that Hamada's in a lot of discomfort. The champ's obviously standing tall, nothing taken away from them, as we go into another video package which looks a little bit more at the history of the Ring of Honor and TNA World Heavyweight Championships. A number of clips shown. Of course, there's many great reigns in the history of these titles, but the main focus goes to CM Punk's victory to become the Ring of Honor World Champion for the first time, and Samoa Joe picking up his first TNA World Heavyweight Championship victory. Both of those guys been part of the fight against TNA, but of course Joe, a TNA legend in his own right, and he, AJ Styles and Bryan Danielson hold the distinction of being the only men to have held both the Ring of Honor and TNA World Heavyweight Championships. CM Punk has the chance to do that tonight, of course, as the TNA World Heavyweight Championship and Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championships are on the line. The winner will leave with both of those titles and become the first Impact World Champion. We go then into the first unification match of the night, and it is the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, the Briscoes, versus the TNA World Tag Team Champions, the American Wolves. And using the Thanksgiving Battle Royal title opportunity that Shelton Benjamin earned, we also have WGTT in this match, and it is one half of WGTT who is pinned. Charlie Haas taken down by the powerbomb backstabber combination of the American Wolves. They retain the TNA World Heavyweight Championships in defense number 3. They win the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships and become the first Impact World Tag Team Champions. You can see a really good match, 77, great wrestling and good heat, excellent chemistry all round, as we know, getting the crowd hotter, advancing the storyline, and we can see Shelton Benjamin with a 91 is the standout performer, but the Wolves showing why they are the best tag team in the world. Mark and Jay and Charlie Haas all putting in decent performances, but not on the level of those two guys there, and there is no doubt in anybody's mind as they are handed the Ring of Honor and TNA World Tag Team titles after the match. They are the best tag team in the world. The ring announcer confirming them as the first Impact World Tag Team Champions. They stand tall. It's a fantastic photo opportunity to be in possession of both of those titles, but the new championships will debut on the first episode of Impact Wrestling. The question, of course, now is who will be presented with the Impact World Championship. Will it be AJ Styles or will it be their associate CM Punk? We'll, of course, find out in the main event. We then go into the Knockouts Championship match, and during it, we do see Christy Hem come out eventually. She thinks that she's being sneaky, but having seen her watching the match on a monitor in the back throughout the contest, we're not surprised when Mickie James is quickly out there. The idea being that Mickie is eagle-eyed and she is waiting for the first sight of Christy Hem. She is able to run Christy off and doesn't get her hands on her, but of course it has stopped Tara from using that method of cheating. It doesn't stop her from cheating altogether though, as Tara takes the Knockouts Championship from ringside while the referee deals with the Mickey and Christie situation, clocks Alyssa Flash and picks up the victory with a 1-2-3. So far from a clean victory, although we won't be seeing another match between these two because I got the warning of it being the fourth match they've had recently, so I expected actually this would be a really poor match. We gain heat to the storyline, two really good performances, and a 72 is one of the best Knockouts Championship matches that we've ever had, so I'm really pleased with that, considering I was expecting it could, like we saw with, was it Desmond Wolfe and Jay Lethal, end up in the 40s or something, so it could have gone really badly. But a pay-per-view match, high expectations, and these two women have delivered. Despite the attempt for Christy Hem to get involved being thwarted by Mickie James, we kind of get the idea that Tara thought one step ahead here. Mickie was only focused on Christy Hem, so when the referee had to deal with that, Tara was quickly ready with her plan B. She has handed back the title that she had just used to knock out Alyssa Flash and stands tall in the ring, continuing to establish Tara as the top heel in the division. And of course, with Mickie, Alyssa, Gail Kim, Sarah Del Rey even, there is a lot of people with a target on the champion, but she continues to find a way to pick up victory after victory. We then get a excellent video package for the main event. To be fair, I did expect this to be around 100, so I'm not that surprised, but it gains heat to the storyline, the Road to Final Battle storyline that we've been building for months now. Punk and Heyman both improvising really well as we get their talking head pieces about how important this match is, and it's just recapping everything we've already heard in the build. AJ Styles, this means so much to him. This is about defending the company that he's been with since day one and being the flag bearer for Impact Wrestling that he has been for TNA. Despite his initial reservation about the rebranding, he's fully on board now. CM Punk has slightly different intentions. He just wants to drag the TNA name through the mud. He hates this promotion just as much as he loves Ring of Honor, and he is delighted to see the end of TNA, and he wants to forge a new future, a completely different direction with him at the top. Paul Heyman, of course, doing the sell job that we know he's capable of, putting this over as the biggest match in years in professional wrestling and reminding viewers how we came to this point. Footage, of course, of the war that has raged throughout the entirety of 2011 pretty much, TNA versus Ring of Honor, but these two men have become the figureheads. AJ Styles versus CM Punk, 1-on-1. They each have a pinfall victory over the other. Punk pinned AJ to become the Ring of Honor champion at Glory by Honor. AJ pinned Punk to become the TNA World Heavyweight Champion at Bound for Glory. So we come into this match, both men knowing they can beat the other, but of course only one man can leave. We come into the last show before the company rebrands as Impact Wrestling, the TNA World Heavyweight Championship and the Ring of Honor World Championship on the line. This final battle, designed to draw a line under this war. One man will leave as Impact World Champion. I'm really hoping this delivers. I'm expecting that it will, to be fair. We go into the Impact World Championship match that gets a 90, so it's good, but not as good as we have seen, losing heat to the storyline, which shows how high the bar was set. It's 29 minutes and 44, sensational wrestling and fantastic heat, so you can have no complaints really. A really good match between these two who have that real life animosity that I always think will spill out in a match, hopefully seeing a little bit more physical than you'd expect, and that's what we want them to go out and do. Even if they're both far too professional to start laying in shots on each other, we want to try and have a bit of a scruffy match in the early goings before they settle into a back and forth wrestling match, because as much as they want to punch the shit out of each other, they also want to win the championship. Another big part of the build to this match has been AJ Styles' phenomenal forearm, which we've been sort of building up for a year, and CM Punk's go to sleep. It is the forearm versus the knee, and AJ Styles does manage to hit the phenomenal forearm, but Punk kicks out. CM Punk then hits the go to sleep, but AJ Styles is able to kick out of that. We eventually end up on the top rope. AJ setting up, he's going for the spiral tap, that super finisher that he only pulls out when he has to, but CM Punk is able to crotch him on the top rope. The two struggle back and forth, but Punk pulls out the Pepsi plunge, a move we haven't seen for such a long time. Both men back to the canvas, he lifts AJ Styles up and hits him with a second go-to sleep. It's a clean finish because of the importance of the match. I didn't want there to be any question marks, but having brought him in on the big money, being the biggest signing arguably in TNA history, I made the decision that CM Punk would win the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. He would make defense number 2 of the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship, and he would become the first Impact World Champion. And 94 from AJ Styles and 96 from CM Punk, perhaps showing that that is the right decision. And despite their real world animosity, AJ and Punk have good chemistry and lifting the match. I'm going to see if there's anything that stopped this from being quite so good. A lack of psychology, which again, it says it there in the note, but I just think that's not true, is it, of CM Punk and AJ Styles in 2011. Of course, it's a 90, so it's not taken that much away from it, but it still feels unfair to have that red note. Not going to complain too much because this is still going to be one of our best shows ever, and like his Ring of Honor associates earlier in the night, the American Wolves, CM Punk 2 gets the Ring of Honor and TNA World Championships handed to him. He is blooded, the match has taken so much out of him, but one thing that even in this state he remembers is that the Ring of Honor Championship is the one that he wants to hold close, and he lets the TNA Championship drop to the floor. Eventually, as the commentators are putting over this continued disrespect, CM Punk drags himself back to his feet, his disdain for this company evident as he stands in the middle of the ring, holds the Ring of Honor World Championship proudly above his head before placing his boot on the center plate of the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. So when he came into the company, I knew that it's the kind of split reaction. Despite booking him as a heel, you know that he's going to at least have some of the fans on board. I'm saying this as if I want it to get massive heat, but I'm sure, again, it'd be a bit of a split reaction. It's the ultimate disrespectful move, and the commentators, all employed by TNA, are going to put over how disgusting this is. This gesture is only made worse by the promise that he has made previously. The final TNA pay-per-view ending in completely different fashion to the celebration that was Bound for Glory. We had the highest of highs when AJ Styles pinned CM Punk to become the TNA champion, but we end Final Resolution, the final battle, with the nightmare scenario. CM Punk has vowed that he will throw the TNA World Heavyweight Championship in the trash this Thursday on the very final episode of TNA Impact. This is the last pay-per-view, but we still have, of course, Impact this Thursday, week 4 of December, before Impact Wrestling begins in 2012. He has vowed to essentially hold a funeral for TNA. This company is finished, and unfortunately for all the TNA fans, all the TNA loyalists, all our originals and alumni, and everybody associated with the company in a positive way, it's going to be CM Punk who has the final word on this company, and it is actually going to be the very last segment of the last TNA show, so a huge potential angle at the end of the final ever TNA Impact. But an 89 is a really good show, and we have to, I think, give praise to CM Punk. And also, I think I'm going to tell AJ Styles that he is a great example, or a good example, because this guy who he doesn't like, and it's a huge match for him to lose, and he didn't complain whatsoever. I think I'm going to actually give Shelton Benjamin credit as well, because I think he was the third best performer. Well, Bryan Danielson was, but he's got plenty of praise in the past, so we'll praise Shelton Benjamin for a 91 rating. Again, somebody else I've got huge plans for. Such a talented roster, and I suppose that's the takeaway here. We're going into the final show in TNA history. We're looking forward now towards Impact Wrestling in 2012, and that was pretty much a show of how absolutely incredible our roster is. Solid matches throughout the show, so much talent on display, from the opener with Bryan Danielson, Desmond Wolfe, Austin Aries and Tyler Black, El Generico and Steen, everybody else. I'm not going to go through the whole card, even though I easily could. Again, we're in Atlanta, Georgia, so I think that is certainly the home state of AJ Styles, so ideally, again, the heel heat on CM Punk. That's Final Resolution 2011. The final battle, the final pay-per-view in TNA history. I'm not going to try and hype it too much because I feel like I do that for every show, but I'm really looking forward to what's coming in the future. Hopefully you'll want to see that too. Thank you for watching, and it is the last show in TNA history next time, so you're not going to want to miss that. Cheers.